Congress exerting bipartisan pressure to ban TikTok, the social media app has had two new defenders recently, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. As president, Trump actually did try to ban TikTok, but now with lawmakers moving forward on a bill that would force the sale of TikTok to an American company, Trump's denouncing that bill. Let's listen.
There are a lot of young kids on TikTok who will go crazy without it. There are a lot of users. There's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad with TikTok. But the thing I don't like is that without TikTok, you can make Facebook bigger. And I consider Facebook to be an enemy of the people.
Elon Musk also weighed in, writing on X that, quote, "This law is not just about TikTok. It is about censorship and government control," echoing Thomas Massey's criticism of the anti-TikTok legislation.
So this is fascinating.
Yep.
So I've been following this very closely. I pay a lot of attention to social media legislation. So bipartisan appetites to do something about TikTok are significant. I think this bill passed out of committee 50-0. Imagine in our era of supposed polarization, virtually everyone in Congress agreeing on something. But as we often find out, when everybody agrees on something and Thomas Massey is on the other side, you want to take a closer look at it. And in particular, what Massey and Musk are pointing out is that the bill defines TikTok as it's not just about TikTok. It says the federal government shall have power to declare a foreign adversary and to take actions such as this. And they're very concerned about that being applied across the board in Patriot Act kind of sense against more benign. I would argue some of the criticisms of TikTok are a little overblown anyway, but even if you think those concerns are valid, is giving the federal government the power to take this action so important? And then Trump is coming in, and for all I know, might agree with those criticisms as well, but kind of making a separate argument that
what exactly? A lot of kids use it, so he's right. I'm not mad at it.
Rand Paul has said this in opposition to. So Rand Paul stood up, made the same case as Thomas Massey against doing this kind of thing, that it's unconstitutional. It's anti-free speech. You don't have to like the speech, but it's transparently anti-free speech.
Yes.
And also, do we Republicans want to alienate all young people to this degree who are using TikTok? Young conservatives are using TikTok to create content. I've heard from some Gen Z influencers who are like, that would be crazy to cut us off from this livelihood. It's not so easy. It's not just like, then you could go. It'd be perfectly easy to start it up on Instagram or something else. I mean, you have to start over. It's not easy.
Look, I am not Gen Z, but like the good millennial I am, I watch those TikToks when they migrate over to Instagram, and I do not want to be denied.
No.
So look, I agree with all of that.
Fridays co-host Jessica Burbank, who does a lot of
it's
TikTok.
True, and that's not just a kind of a small point. There are a lot of people who have been able to have entrepreneurial success, grow their own businesses in media and beyond, because TikTok allows people to circumnavigate closely held kind of corporate avenues to advertise your product and go direct to consumer. And it's not just with kind of media. It is also with commercial products. People going viral for remember that pink sauce that woman went viral for? That wasn't the greatest example. But they design their own leggings. They design clothes and then are able to get access to celebrities who ask them to make dresses for the Oscars. This stuff happens, and it does also feel just from a kind of constraints of capitalism perspective that folks are trying to keep a lid on people's avenues to avoid exactly those kind of closely controlled banking and advertising and media avenues. But here's my problem with this. I agree with everything that you said. However, what do you make of the fact that Trump spearheaded the original attack on TikTok when he was president? And now he's out here on social media saying, if you get rid of TikTok, Facebook, and Schmucker book. Schmucker, he's doing a Zuckerberg
right. Earlier he said he doesn't want to.
Zucker Schmuck will double their business. I don't want Facebook, who cheated in the last election, doing better. They're a true enemy of the people. That's his rationale now.
So yes, to be clear, there are very cynical reasons for Trump to make this pivot. He came out and said, I don't want to make Mark Zuckerberg's company do better. He also, I saw some people pointing out that I guess a top sort of Chamber of Commerce lobbyist type person met with Trump, and the suggestion being that he was kind of been talked out of it from a just like don't get on the train of regulating business more or something. So there's that reason. I mean, not wanting to alienate the youth vote is a perfectly good reason.
Yes, but of course that's not exactly motivated Republican behavior in the past, especially in a lot of these social issues.
I know, and that's a flaw that the party has.
Yeah, I mean, but aren't you cynical? Aren't you, skeptical of the likelihood that Donald Trump is going to genuinely protect TikTok once he's in office, as with only one term left before him?
Yeah, I don't.
Caveated.
Sure, I'm not putting any faith in Trump's
There's no consequences for him
on any of these things. But I happen to agree, and I'm very worried that a new power on the books to have the federal government be able to classify, clarify companies as foreign adversaries or involved in foreign dealings. I mean, that could impact. I mean, there are Democrats that think Elon is a foreign adversary in terms of his Ukraine takes, or frankly his deference to China on some other issues. There are people who think Mark Zuckerberg ruined the 2016 election by allowing too much Russian information on the platform. And our lawmakers and our mainstream media commentators throw around these accusations of foreign influence and corruption in a knee-jerked, easy, lazy way. So having something on the books that gives a power to those kinds of accusations and an enforcement power, I think could be so harmful to free speech in this country. So I'm glad to see it being opposed.
I'm happy for the allyship here. I just wouldn't trust it farther than I could throw it. And I also do think the point that you made earlier about when you see a bipartisan Congress aligned in one way, it's not frequently something that's positive for the interests of the American people at large.
For sure.
They're not bipartisan over curing child poverty or killing homelessness or extending the COVID-era child tax credits that were so popular or getting universal health care. They are very divided on things which polls suggest most Americans want. They are very united on things that I think ensure up their own power. And when you look at the content that's on TikTok, I know that there are Democrats who think that MAGA is too popular on TikTok. We've seen a lot of reporting about how frustrated various folks are about how popular Palestine is on TikTok. TikTok, social media generally speaking, is an avenue for people to articulate counterculture outside of the mainstream, popular, but not sanctioned within the establishment discourse opinions. And that seems to be quite obviously the target here, at least in part.
And even if it is the case that the Chinese government exerts influence over it and causes some censorship, maybe it's harder to get content about Tiananmen Square on TikTok. That could absolutely be the case. It was harder to get information. It was impossible to get information about the lab leak on Facebook and so many other topics. The Hunter Biden lab story taken down on Twitter over the previous management. And we know now many of these decisions partly motivated by direct government persuasion from the FBI and the CDC and other agencies. So before we need to get our own house in order on this government pressure issue. We can constrain our own government from doing these kinds of things, and for some reason, Congress isn't very interested in doing that.
Why not more speech?
I would start there.
Start a competitor. Isn't that what they always tell people? Government, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and try to start a competitor company to TikTok that has all the American freedoms that you want. Compete on the marketplace.
I just, before we go, I saw Mike Pence had an op-ed for Fox News supporting this banning of TikTok. Probably, this is probably an indirect jab at Trump for what he's said about it recently. And it starts with the line like, this is digital fentanyl. China doesn't allow its citizens access to this product. And that's supposed to be this gotcha line that people always use. Well, China doesn't allow its people access to it because China is not a free country. It has a repressive government. That's a bad thing. We don't want to do that.
He's just tired of seeing all those guillotine memes.
Okay. All right, we'll have more Rising right after this. Please stay with us.